If you keep waiting for the perfect time, you will be waiting forever. The biggest and most counterintuitive thing about our entrepreneurship journey was not only doing it fast, but doing it messy without worrying about the small details and trusting the process. Before we dive into the details, we want to give other aspiring content creators an easy win today by helping you post your first piece of content fast. If you've been listening along, you know we started this podcast in the very same vein, fast and dirty. But thanks to platforms like Riverside, we've been able to improve the quality and efficiency along the way, which is the beauty of what happens when you just start. You discover tools that help you get better. We love using Riverside to simplify our editing process and create shorts and clips from our lengthy episodes to drive more traffic to the full podcast episode and message. Before you come up with a million excuses as to how you're not technical and editing is too complicated and time consuming, this platform is dumb easy to use. It's such a beginner friendly interface and it's very intuitive from the first time that you go in. This way you can actually spend less time tinkering with fancy editing software and stressing over techniques and spend more time clarifying the message for your audience, because that's what actually matters. It's powered by AI to cut out speech breaks, create clips automatically, and transcribe your videos. So no more manual captions. You heard it here first. These are just to name a few of the many features. Personally, one of my favorite features is the recording. I've gotten several messages about how new creators would rather take the pressure off by having guests or having a co-host because they feel like they're not interesting enough, which is not true. But if that's the case, this makes it super easy to do so. You can add in virtual guests. You can have multiple audio tracks. We've actually used it a few times here on the podcast with previous virtual guests that we've had internationally. This eliminated so much friction in the beginning because I was extremely new to podcasting. All my guests had to do was click a button and both had crispy audio, clear footage of each other up to 4K, and so many features like a chat, script notes. And I'm using the script notes feature right now and I'm telling you, it is bomb. So if you're ready to pull the trigger and get your content out there with a frictionless editor, be sure to use the code IFOMA, which is IFEOMA at checkout, and you'll get 15% off your paid subscription. And biggest of all, thank you to Riverside for being our first official sponsor. This is what happens when you put your content out there. No matter how sure or confident you are about it, it helps you get practice and good opportunities come to you. And the more authentic you are, the more aligned these opportunities will be. We've got a fun episode, so let's get into the episode.
Untouchable.
I'm feeling untouchable. I'm feeling down to the no.
Boom. What episode are we on?
We are on the 6th episode of the 2nd season.
I don't think anyone does seasons. I realized that.
Well, we're doing seasons.
Everyone counts from 0.
What do you mean?
They'll do episode 1,
Yeah.
2, 3,
Oh,
4,
I see.
5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Okay.
13, 14. Joe Rogan's on like season 3 million. Or
episode.
He's on
Okay.
episode 3 million.
Okay. Well, good for
And
him.
we're never going to break 7.
What do you mean 7?
We're only going to make it to episode 6. Everyone's going to be like, this is a new podcast.
Well, I like it because it's like there's seasons of our journey. You know, it's like first semester, second semester.
I also feel we may not, the seasons will be clear in retrospect, not so much when we're going through it.
That's true.
So it'll be better, we'll go back and say, wow, seasons 1 through 20 were this season. Am I saying seasons? Episodes 1 through 20 are this season. Episodes 21 through 50 are this season.
Yeah, maybe we should just keep it numbers.
Because that way we can be untouchable.
Today we are talking about the game of entrepreneurship. Yeah, it's a rough game.
We don't need any other prompts or questions.
We don't need
or
anything.
discussion points.
We have no discussion points.
That's all we need.
Literally the game. It's the game.
I do think it is a game in that, actually, yeah, it is a lot like a game, because at least the way I'm seeing it right now is if you played any game as a kid, the first levels were always easier.
Yeah.
And you would get better over time until the point like you would beat the whole game, and then you could always raise your difficulty, and then you kind of could play the game over again, and then there are like all these levels. I feel like the levels, they correlate loosely with, I don't know what you want to call it, like wealth or equity or value of your business, or like what you make in 1 year or what you're capable of making in 1 year. So like level 1 is like making $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
If you don't make any money, then you're not even playing the game.
You're you're not even.
But
in,
you make $1. That's one level. Then I would say like the next level is like making hundreds of dollars. These are like people doing like side hustles. When I was doing research, and I was writing blogs on Medium, I was making like
a few $100s a month.
Yeah, hundreds of dollars, and maybe even like hundreds to thousands. But once you start making like 10,000 to 100,000,
that's a different level of the game.
I feel like that's a different level. And of course these levels are very loose and subjective. Okay, so level 1 is like just making your first dollar. That's like the tutorial level. And then you're in this hundreds or thousands level, so that's level 2. Then that 10,000 to 100,000, like you can make like serious, like this is legit money cash, you know, you could do this full time. So that's level 3. But then I feel like that 100,000 to 1 million level, like that's level 4. We're on level 4, right? That's like level 4. And that's when it starts becoming serious, because
that's when people notice.
This is maybe, or maybe no one notices, but I think some key things start to happen. You start involving other people in the process, you know,
like employees. And stuff.
Maybe employees, maybe subcontractors. Of course, there are people, especially these days, like one person $1 million business isn't such a crazy idea. But I do feel like those people will still have like virtual assistants or something. They will involve other people. They'll have other entrepreneurs or other people that they will talk to about their stuff. So that's a major point. And I think right now I'm at level 3 and I'm trying to get to
level 4.
So basically that 100,000, that level 4 is making 10K a month.
Okay.
Like that range.
That would be great, because I feel like we got to level 4 in okay. There's another point here. Those levels are different depending on if you're in entrepreneurship or not. Because like in corporate, those levels feel completely different. Like going from the, I mean, hopefully you're not in any of the like level 1, level 2 where you're making hundreds, but
like minimum wage, like working
I guess minimum wage.
Tutti Frutti.
Working like those like service industry jobs.
McDonald's.
Thanks.
These are places.
These are places I worked in corporate, or I guess like you have an employer of some sort. In those settings, like the levels feel differently, and how easy it is to get to those levels is different.
Okay, I think this is the key difference. In entrepreneurship, the levels scale exponentially. So we're notice we went from like talking about $1 to like thousands of dollars, to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Beyond, you're going to be talking in millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, you know? So it's not a linear scale as things go up. In corporate, it's a linear scale, because each promotion you're going to get, you know, maybe $20,000-$30,000 increment until you hit like that leadership level where they start giving you equity in the business, and then it starts looking more like entrepreneurship. But for most people, most of the time, it's this linear incremental levels. Of course, there's less risk and more guarantee that you're gonna make it to the next level as long as you just show up and do the job. But in entrepreneurship, there's no true guarantee that you'll make it to the next level. You know, you have to kind of like,
you have to push it forward. Like you have to force it. I mean, literally the game is like forcing it. Like you have to keep, not only show up, but you have to say like, okay, I'm intentionally going for this next level. Like I intentionally need to get to this spot. Otherwise it's not going to just happen. Like it's not going to just randomly fall into your lap, which I could argue, and with my experience in corporate, promotions can fall into your lap. Like it happened to me where I wasn't trying to get promoted and it happened. And I don't think that ever happened. Well, I don't know. I don't think it like is completely unintentional in entrepreneurship, where just this wad of cash or this new income stream just like falls into your lap. Like I feel like
it's not.
You have to do, there's something that happened before that has led to it.
Well, you get better. And I think that's where the skills come in. There are two pieces of the equation. There's skill and there's luck. You know, they're important in any context, the corporate context or entrepreneurship. Like in entrepreneurship, there's no guarantee you're going to make it to the next level, which introduces this degree of like uncertainty, which naturally requires some luck. It's just things you can't control. But I feel like this metaphor of like, it's a game, and how do you make it to the next level of the game? Like a video game, like Super Mario, you get better at whatever it is, and you just kind of get better through iteration of just trial and error. And then you kind of see things slightly differently. Like if I jump this way, and you find like little tricks and hacks.
I now thinking about it, because we've talked about this metaphor before of like entrepreneurship being a game and everything, but I am realizing I'm somebody who doesn't like games.
That's why you hate entrepreneurship.
No, but I do honestly, even though I'm into entrepreneurship and like people starting things, it was never necessarily about entrepreneurship that was the thing for me. It was about people like and myself living fully, like to the max that I could live. And
I
that's kind of been my message, especially with my brand Sans Raison. It's just really people maximizing their life, where for you it's like maximizing your potential. The missions overlap a lot. But I think lately it's been very hard for me to like stay patient, keep playing. Like I want to keep doing this and I feel like it's something I could do forever, but it's really, really hard in games or just in entrepreneurship in general when you don't see any reward for what you're putting in. And the idea is that the reward is supposed to be the act of you doing it. Like if you have a restaurant, like the act is in you making the food and serving the customers and interacting with them. Like it's already there. So you don't need to get like all these crazy reviews and like all this money for it to be that rewarding. But I just realized right now when you're talking about games, I don't enjoy games because one, there's two scenarios. One, they're either too complicated, like too many rules, and I don't like that many constraints. Like I like a few but not that many. Or it's like it's like Monopoly. It takes forever. It's just
you're impatient.
I'm impatient, and I think that's why I've been having difficulty, because it like entrepreneurship is a game. And even though I'm here like, oh, I want to live to the fullest, my fullest life includes me having brands and businesses and like serving people and talking about things I'm passionate about, which will just naturally overlap with entrepreneurship. And I'm starting to see like maybe that's why I'm having a hard time, because I've always been very impatient when it comes to things, and I like exciting new things all the time, which is why I'm really good at starting stuff. I don't think I'm the worst at finishing things. Like I do like to finish. I can be very like very meticulous about like I have to finish something too when I start it, which is also, it's like a perfectionist thing. I think that's also a problem. Okay. But I'm not used to the finishing of something taking this long. Yeah. And I don't have any structure. Like finishing my degree, that took a long time, but you have a lot of distractions, like friends, class, there's like little milestones. Somebody has made the structure for you. But when the game is unstructured, it's almost like you don't know what level's next. That's what entrepreneurship feels like lately, and I think that's what it is. Like it's a game you're playing, but you don't know the rules. There are no rules, actually. I don't play a lot of video games or games in general, but there's instructions. It usually comes with instructions, or you see like, oh, if I get to this many points, I get this, I get to this level. Like that doesn't exist. Right. And that's what's really hard, is like, it's a game without structure, without rules, and free for all. Right. And you can win really fast. You can win really slow. You can
also lose very fast.
Exactly. You can lose very fast. You can lose very slow. You just never know where it's going. So it's like it's the trickiest kind of game you can play.
And I feel that brings up one of the most important skills you have to learn, which is dealing with uncertainty. Yeah. Being able to do something for a long time. Yeah. Even if it's not clear, you're not getting feedback. Everyone is telling you you're doing the wrong thing.
I might have said this in previous episodes where I'm like, it's not hard yet. Like, the starting the businesses, launching the brands, whatever, it hasn't gotten that hard yet, being a full-time content creator. But I think I'm starting to feel like I can kind of start saying that this is hard. Like it's starting to feel hard for me. It's because I don't think I've ever had this much uncertainty, where every aspect of my day-to-day life is my decision. And that sounds amazing, and it is very freeing because I like freedom, but it's also very uncertain, and I've never had this degree of uncertainty in my life. You've had it because you went through this crazy anxiety experience for like years, so I feel like you got used to that level of uncertainty to where I'm talking about you have to start creating your own rules because you can't hold on to anything. Right. And I think I'm starting to feel that now where I'm like, yeah, I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. I'm just gonna, not even I'm gonna proceed anyway. I'm just gonna force myself to believe this because I have no other option. I was sitting there, like actually this morning I was writing my newsletter for my brand and I'm like, man, I've been doing this consistent like thing where I'm writing my newsletter. I think that's good, you know, build the audience, whatever. I'm like, should I do something next? Like, should I launch something new? Because I feel like people are maybe they're getting bored. I don't know. I don't get a lot of, maybe I'm getting bored. I don't get feedback. So I'm just like, sure. Let's assume that people are excited about it and start it. Like I had to just pretend. It's almost like I'm playing with imaginary friends. I have to pretend that someone has asked me to do this so I can create a new product or like something, not a physical product, but like something I can make to keep people excited. I'm like, I'm assuming people want something like this. So let me just make it. I think it's cool. So let me do it. And I think that's a lot of times in any business, you just kind of you have to force a lot. I don't think people talk about that. Like you don't want it to be too forced to where it's not aligned because that's just, it's not going to be worth it for you or the customer anyway. But you have to pretend. You have to be extremely delusional to make anything work. Because I've always believed that people don't really know what they want. And what I mean by that is that like sometimes you kind of have to put something out there for someone to be like, oh yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of times in this game, you kind of create like if you don't have the levels, you just create them. Like this is going to be my new level. This is going to be my new challenge. So like, I think that's not like people don't talk about that where you're literally, if I'm doing this right, you're literally just creating new events, new experiences, new products because you think it's cool. You don't know if people like it. Maybe you haven't even, like if you're small like me, you're not getting a lot of feedback. You're getting a decent amount to keep you going, but you're not getting a lot to where you like know that people need this right now. You just have to guess, and if you believe in it enough, try it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like the super game with millions of sub games happening, and they'll overlap with each other. There'll be, they'll overlap in rules and skills you have to learn, but then there'll be games that are look completely different. Like the rules are completely different. The skills that you need to learn are completely different.
It's almost like, honestly, the more I get into this, and like I've heard people say this, like when you start a business and you go after one or whatever, like you learn so much about yourself. Like it is literally the process of self-development. Like you have to change who you are to match this new child. It's like a parent. Like you have to change to make this thing grow. Even though we like to compartmentalize it into like, oh, I'm starting a business, I'm creating a business, like you're just learning like real life, I feel like. Which personally I feel like even in the real world, working for an employer, I don't know if that's real life because our real life back to like when back in the day, we were hunting and we were in the jungle. We were just trying to survive. And I don't think anything really puts you in that zone, especially now, except for like businesses and like going after something that is completely uncertain, because that's what our life used to be like. That was the real life back then. And now we've kind of made things structured and we've added, now you can see the levels, climb the corporate ladder. You see exactly how it's going to work, which is all artificial.
It's clearly defined,
but life is not defined. Life is uncertain. Life is confusing. And I think this is really, it's the game of entrepreneurship, but it's a game of life. And I think when you start a business, you're like, I'm actually tapping into play life now, and if you're feeling like, oh shit, what am I doing? Like, I don't know if this is going to work out. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I think you should just comfort yourself in the fact that like you're actually living real life. So even if it feels like you're failing, you're winning at living real life. So
I want to talk about the aspects of a game. This isn't something I've ever looked into or thought about, so just want to just kind of talk about it.
You're asking the wrong person, because I don't play game.
But I don't know, I feel like games will have rules.
Yeah, they'll have rules, they'll have characters.
Okay,
I think that's what we talked about. Like, games have rules, they have characters, they have coins, or some kind of
success metric.
And then they'll have like did I say levels already?
No.
Okay, so levels, and they'll have missions. Ooh.
Like objectives.
And I feel like that is everything you see in business. Like, I know we kind of touch on levels already, but like a part of those levels that I don't think we talked about is like the setting. Like, each level has a different setting, right? And it's like almost like a different season. It's like almost like it's its own little world. Mm-hmm. The game that's in my head is RuneScape, because that's like the last game I seriously played.
When did you stop playing that? When you were 16?
I got hacked. Oh, I think I said, why'd you stop playing?
I said when?
When? 22? A long time ago. No, shut up. I stopped playing like 13, I don't know, 12.
Wow.
Probably something like that.
And you got hacked. Wow.
I got hacked. It was a boy. He tricked me. And
that's a good lesson for
That's a good lesson. Don't talk to men.
But I think the same thing happens in business. Like, you do a deal with someone, and it goes completely sideways, and then you kind of take that as a lesson. Honestly,
that was pretty shocking, because I didn't even want this boy. This is another lesson.
This started your hatred of men.
This started my hatred of men. Getting hacked on RuneScape. I didn't even want this boy. He wanted me. Okay, I'm not even trying to sound like, but like literally that was the case. And then we figured out we both played RuneScape together. We're like, oh my God, I think his name is Jimmy or something like that.
You knew him in person?
Yes. We were like at school. We were friends. And we were talking about RuneScape all the time. And then he was really good at it. Like, he had gotten his account to like whatever the fuck the highest level you could get or something. And he was like, oh yeah, like I can show you how to do it. I was like, oh my God, cool. He's like, just like, give me your login and I'll like level up your account and like make sure you get a lot of coins or whatever. I'm pretty sure it was coins that was the success metric. And I gave it to him like at school one day. The next day, I log into my freaking account after school. I'm like excited to play, because I wasn't the best, but I was working on it. I was finding it. And come to find out, I had been robbed. No coins, no.
That's how he got so good.
I know. And he took all of my armor, all of the food, literally he
you were starving.
Wiped me clean. Like, I would have to start from zero. And there was this magical garden. I forgot do you remember? Like, there was this, they used to call it like the garden of like something. It was so hard to get past that garden because everybody was killing each other. It was literally like a no man's land. Like, you would get robbed going through that thing. Like, passing that level was really hard.
Okay.
And I had gone back to the point I couldn't even get past that like first entry room that they used to have. And I was so pissed. I was like, this guy, he fucking robbed me. So yeah, don't talk to men.
Were you able to make it through, or you just quit?
I just stopped because I was like, this is too hard. Because I don't think it was years. I had worked for at least months to get where I was, and I was like, I can't do this again. This is too much. And I think maybe that's when I stopped playing games. I don't know.
That's interesting. And I feel like that might be the story of a lot of people with entrepreneurship too.
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
They will spend maybe not months,
years.
maybe months, but months, years building a business. Something goes sideways, and then they go back to zero, or they even go negative.
Yeah.
And I guess you have two choices. It's like you can quit playing the game, or you can just start playing from scratch again. And I feel like the people that start playing from zero again, they make so much more progress faster, but they also build it better. Yeah. Because they've learned so much from that first iteration.
100%.
They know. You know, when you're first doing things, you don't know anything. So you're just like building things just based on your limited understanding and whatever just seems to work right now.
Yeah.
And you can't really see ahead of you because you haven't been there yet. But when you've already been there, you know how to build the foundation to help support that later.
No, that's really true, because that I feel like that was my story with content creation. Like I've always loved it, like my whole life, even before it was like a job and everything. And when I really was like, I quit my job in 2020, and I was like, I'm gonna be an influencer. I was like sure of it, and then I started it. Started posting on Instagram, started doing things. It was a very inefficient system, especially looking back now. Breaking down over not getting 100 likes every post was never going to be sustainable. But I feel like when I came back to content creation in 2022, I guess, or 2023 really, I felt so much more stable. Like I was coming in with a different mission. I wasn't to look the coolest, go to the coolest places, curate myself to other people. It was finally to curate to myself. And content creation out of all of my business ventures has been the most, it's been
volatile.
Volatile. Yeah. I would say definitely the most volatile and the longest. Yeah. It's been the thing that I've just been trying to do forever. And I think a lot of it is timing and luck, of course. Yeah. And so back then when things wouldn't work out, I would just quit. I would give up. I would just pity party myself and everything. And I still have habits of doing that where I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like I can't figure it out. I'm just not going to post. But that doesn't do anything for my success, because literally not posting is just taking draws out of the raffle. It's literally just removing yourself, and that stuff I didn't understand completely back then. And now I still kind of have similar emotions, but I'm just like, I know better. So even if I'm confused, just post. Even if I don't know what to do, just post. Like, not like I'm forcing myself to post when I'm upset, but just keep going. Like literally just keep going. And I think now it's funny that we're talking about this, because like I'm starting to feel very like, it's hard, this level, whatever, this is getting tough, but I have never been to this level before, because I've never felt this uncomfortable. I've never felt this like kind of like internal pain. And I feel like that's a huge part of it, is like when you stop and you start over, you go to newer levels. So like even if you stopped a million times, maybe you stopped the first round on level 2 and then you quit. And then you try again, and then you stop on level 4, and then you quit, and then you try again, and then you stop on level 10. You just like, you keep getting better, even if you have these multiple stops and everything. And I think now I'm at a level I've never been before. And before I'd be like, this is so uncomfortable, I have to stop. But now I'm like, I know that I'm getting higher in the levels because it's feeling different. Right. And that's actually a good sign. Even though it doesn't feel like a good sign. I am aware that it's a good sign because of my past.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Like I would argue, if you feel uncomfortable and you feel pain, that's where you want to be, because that means you're at the limits of your comfort, which means you're pushing. You're
literally pushing boundaries. You're literally pushing yourself into a different level that you've never been before.
So you talked about a few things. You talked about the aspects of a game: rules, levels, coins,
success metric. Characters and objectives, a mission, whatever.
Okay, mission. So when I like what you were just saying about quitting and stuff, because I would say there are no rules in entrepreneurship, but there's actually one rule. So I think that's the way to think about it. It's like there are no rules, but actually there is one, which is don't die. Which is essentially don't give up. Because you only die if you take yourself out of the game, unless you like literally like physically die. But if you're still alive, you're still physically alive. The only way you can get taken out of the game is you self-select. No matter how bad things get, like you are the one that chooses not to keep playing the game, because there's always a way to play. Even if you have unexpected obligations, unexpected situations arise, like setbacks come up, there's always a version of it that's possible. There are no rules, but don't die. Would you add anything else to that list of after but?
No, like I think we've said that in different ways to like some of our friends who are kind of where we were in situations. Like we're not that far up the levels, but maybe one or two. And I think for anyone who I've talked to who's like in a situation that I've been in the past, like they're in a job they hate. You're in the job that you hate and you can't even figure out how to like even start. Like just even starting your venture, your idea, your community. And we always tell our friends to leave the situation that is holding them back, because like you're at zero usually, and then the job that you hate or whatever sucking your life source is pulling you back. So you can't even get to zero because it's almost a beneath zero, because like you're just being held back. And I always tell people the most successful thing I feel like I've ever done is quit. Like I could quit my job. Yeah. And he said joggers. I feel like quitting my job was the most successful thing I could have ever done, because it
allows you to play the game.
It allows me to play the game. Like, maybe learning how to build a website, learning how to talk to people, learning how to sell. Those are very successful things, right? But like that would be nothing without me leaving a situation that was not going to ever serve me. Like that was single-handedly the most successful thing I could have done is starting. And I feel like when it's kind of similar to like, don't give up. It's like, just, you have to keep going. Like you have to figure it out. And I think the most successful thing people can do is cut that shit off. And then similar, when you're in business, literally the longer you stay in it, the more you learn all that stuff. Like it's almost guaranteed for you to understand how to sell, how to market, how to build a product, how to do all these things when you're in the game. If you're not in the game, you will never come across those things. Or
you'll just kind of go down your rabbit hole, whatever it'll be very specialization you're in.
Exactly. You'll just get specialized. And for anyone who's like curious about like the difference of like the specialization versus like being a generalist, like I think a lot of entrepreneurs would recommend you become a generalist, because the specializing gets you paid every week, every month, but you end up working.
You can't really run a business.
You can't run a business like that, and you end up working for the generalists anyway.
Right.
And so your salary is probably always going to be capped. But as a generalist, you work with these amazing specialized people who are probably 10 times more talented than you in that thing. And you kind of reap all the rewards from it because you're getting to put it together. You're like the curator.
Yeah.
And I feel like you are bound to be successful if you keep going. But similar to like you not quitting your job, if you stay there and you hate it, and this could be anything, not just like quitting your job, like whatever lifestyle is holding you back, if you stay there, you're just never going to get anywhere close. Like your probability is 0. But if you start, even if it's 10%, that is better than 0. You know what I mean? So like I would say I don't think I would add anything to that. I just think like there's like below 0 and 0, like above 0.
It's a good segue to the levels.
Yeah.
And kind of hearing you talk, it makes me think that the levels look different for different people.
Yeah.
So like your level 0 was working at corporate.
Yeah.
And the moment you quit, you were at level 1 almost.
I feel like I was behind 0.
Okay.
-1.
You were at -1. And then when you quit, you were finally at level 0.
Exactly.
I feel like for me, I was at level 1 while still working at a job, because I was able to make content on the side, do consulting calls on the side. And then when I quit, it did feel like a new level, even though I wasn't making significantly more money. So all that to say that the levels, it's not purely driven by like
money or numbers,
like the number of coins you have.
It's more of a metaphorical thing.
Yeah, it's more like a rough approximation.
Yeah.
But like the details of the levels, I think will depend on the person.
-1 was staying at my corporate job. 0 was leaving the job. 1 was kind of there was a period before freelancing, I guess, where I was just doing God knows what to make a buck. Like I was doing research studies.
I would say that's level 1.
I think that's level 1. I was doing research studies. I did things for free in exchange for a product. And like, I was just doing whatever to get any money because I didn't know how I was going to survive. I started working at People's Revolt. I started doing blog writing for like $11 an hour. So it was, I think that was level 1. Level 2 was starting from that like hundreds to up to $1,000. Like I did a few gigs that were like $100, $200 here on Upwork, you know. And then I think level 3 was when I started making thousands, like multiple thousands a month. And I feel like I could have gone to level 4.
Where you're making like 250,
right,
500K
a year, because I think level 3 I made like 120 in a year, and then I think I could have, if I kept going, and I would probably have to make it like an agency at that point, I could have gotten to like 250, possibly even 300, depending on how, because you can make a lot of money doing social media marketing. It's a very like, I feel like an easy field if you like that kind of stuff.
Low barrier to entry. You know, not everyone's good at it, but also the thing with social media is like you don't really have to be good at it, which is why I kind of like left, because I just didn't feel like a lot of noise.
I feel like it was a lot of noise, and I feel like it didn't feel right to be rich off of something that I didn't feel like was actually that valuable to people. But anyways, so that was my level. But then I feel like I had to start over. I feel like I had to go back to 0.
Oh wow.
So leaving all of that,
you had to play a new game.
I had to play a new game. Wow. And I just dropped all of that and went back to 0. And that for me was really last year when I just said like, I'm leaving all this completely, dropped all of my clients, went from making like the minimum I typically made 8,000 a month, maximum it could go up to like 15. But I went from that to making like 1,000. And then I did another big jump in October of last year where I was like 0. And so I stopped any clients that I had, even the ones that kept me alive. And then I stopped consulting, which was like my first failed business. I was consulting basically all of last year and it just didn't feel right to me. So October, I would say, is like really when I went to 0. And since then it's been like create content or start a brand or do both. And that doesn't really bring in money. I would say if I do brand deals or I do UGC or content creation for other people, that can bring in money. But most of it is usually just like, I'm doing it from the goodness of my heart. And I think that puts me back at like level 1, maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You're kind of level 1 of this new
venture.
Game.
And so I think it's like, that's it. You're just always starting over. And like, I never thought about myself as somebody who was like persistent because I'm impatient. Right. But then just looking at my life and like all of the little things I started, I'm like, I don't think I've ever given up on this. Like I'm going to be a creator of some sort and an entrepreneur of some sort. Like every job I had in my mind was a business. Like I was like, we're going to take this to the fucking stars or the moon, whatever people say, like
stratosphere.
I was always like, and I've had different accounts. I've had different ideas. Like I've just always had these like random little things that I wanted to take. And I don't think I've ever given up on it. I think I've always been like, even if I stop, I start over again. I've stopped Instagram 3 times. I always start over. I've stopped YouTube a few times. I always start over. Like I always just keep going. And that tells me that like, no matter how many times I have to start over, I guess I just got to do it until it works.
There's something
there. I can't run away from it, even if I try, you know, like it's in me. So whatever. What about you, King?
Yeah, I haven't like thought through it. So really everything started for me. It's been almost 5 years I've been making content.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. I started in 20. Is that right? I don't know.
You started in 2020?
No, it was actually before 2019.
Oh yeah.
I posted my first article and YouTube video in 2019.
Wow. So it's been 4 years. 5 years.
It's going to be 5 years in August, I think.
That's crazy.
I didn't even realize it. But what it looked like is I was a grad student, so I was doing research, and then I was making content about my research. And I guess I did make money pretty quickly, like a few months in, because Medium, where I write the blogs, I think the first month I made like $5. The second month I made like 15. But then pretty quickly I was making like $100-$200 a month. Yeah. Like pretty consistently. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
That's nice. Yeah.
Of course, like what are you going to do with $100 a month? But anyway, it was just something I enjoyed doing. And then I was making YouTube videos. I wasn't monetized on YouTube. Yeah. So I wasn't making any money from that. But then what was happening is I was doing freelance work in grad school too.
Yeah.
So that I had a few contracts come in from that, and that made some decent money. Yeah. We could say it was like the thousands per month on average if you kind of average it all up. So I would say like level 1 was just writing those blogs and doing that. So like hundreds a month. And then level 2 was adding in this freelance element. Yeah. So I was like picking up these gigs. Yeah. Making like 1,000 a month on average. And then I started working at Toyota, which kind of put a pause on this whole journey. I feel like, because when I graduated, I could have gone the freelance route, and I had one client offer me, it was like $90 an hour full time. Yeah. It was a contract, which would have been a lot of money. It was like $200,000 or something. And then I would have still had the flexibility to be making the content. Yeah. So that would have been level 3. Yeah. But I kind of went this other direction where I was working corporate, which I think was a great choice, because I got a whole new perspective on like how business is done and like how data science is done. But if you look at the ventures, it kind of was like still at that 100 level. So it's still at that level 2 situation.
Hundreds to 1,000 maybe.
Yeah. So it was in that area. But then when I quit Toyota, it was a change, but I wasn't making any more money. But I do think that kind of really changed the game. I was at level 2 this whole time. So like level 1 was writing like those early blogs. Level 2 was like writing the blogs and
freelance clients.
Freelance clients, consulting calls, like just these odd jobs. And then now I feel like I'm starting to transition to that level 3 where it's like, you're making a livable wage. Yeah. Because ever since I quit, we've been bleeding, so we're not making enough money to pay the bills. Yeah. But I haven't looked at month to month profit. Yeah. But if I were to guess, last month I think I probably made like $3,000 to $4,000,
which is crazy.
Yeah. So
which is like so good.
It's like we're starting to get there. Yeah. We're starting to transition to level 3. Is that yes in French? We're starting to transition to that level 3. Yeah. Like my journey is the combination of 2 games. It's game 1 is the content creation game, and game 2 is like the service provider, data scientist, consultant game, freelance game kind of thing. And there is some synergies and overlap, but they are distinct. They're different games, and they require different skills.
And I think there's a third game that you're playing, which is like your corporate game, like that level.
Yeah. And so if you want to bring that game into it too, then yeah.
And I think with that one, it's so funny because I think you went from like level 0 to, well, technically, if we're talking about like the corporate employer ladder, when you were doing research in grad school, you were making $2,000 a month. Yeah. So I guess you went from like level 2 to 3 in that sense, technically, to like making $2,000 a month to like
$10K a month.
$10K a month at a corporate job. But it was so, I feel like your corporate ladder is so stark because it's like he was in school for like
4 years.
outside of undergrad, obviously. And I feel like you were making no money most of your life up until like 27, and then you went boom to like 6 figures. And I feel like that's such a stark difference.
Right.
And then so that's one journey.
I went to 6 figures and then I went right
and then
back
you went
down.
right back down to nothing. So
I'm used to being poor, so it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about that. Like, it's really helpful to put it in these levels for me, actually, just like reflecting on my life, because I feel like if there's anything I can attribute to my patience, the small patience that I've had, is that I have an example in the past of me doing this before, because I don't think I would have had the confidence or the faith to try to keep going with this stuff unless I had my previous example of me leaving corporate and that journey into me finding freelance. Like, being really unsuccessful to being successful all by myself without having the answers in front of me. Like, that really helped me get through, is helping me get through this, because I'm like, God, I don't know if I'm ever gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm like, well, I've been here before and I've done it. So like, I'm sure there's some light. I just haven't done it in this type of game. Like, I'm just not used to this level, you know? In the past, there was this period, I would say, when I was after I left corporate, after leaving a stable income, to that period when I was making the hundreds, I was like, man, I mean, I wasn't thinking that hard at the time because I was young and I was a free spirit and I didn't care, I guess. But I was thinking, I don't know if this is ever gonna work. Like, I'm just out here trying a new field, freelancing. I didn't even think I would ever be able to make up my income again. I was just like, it's just better than corporate, you know? That was just my only thought at the time. And now that I think about it, like, I feel like that's exactly where I am right now. Like what we just said, I'm at that like hundreds of dollars here and there.
Yeah.
And now it's a bit harder to be in this spot because I feel like I'm older. There's more things going on. There's like, I feel like maybe internal expectations, external expectations. Like, I feel like I have to be at a certain level. Back then I didn't think that deep about it, but it is really comforting to think about, like, I was there at one point and I did make it past that level, and I think if I just keep going right now,
that's like evidence that you are capable of leveling up.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, you forget so much because in the day-to-day you're just like, damn, I don't think this is ever gonna work. This is like such a stupid idea. Like, but I know why. Back then I knew why I was doing it, because I was like, I don't know where this is going, but it's not the past. It's not what I was doing, and I know I can't do that. Like, this is 10 times better than corporate and just feeling suffocated all day. I think I was just feeling the pain of that I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, but it's better than that.
Right.
And I think right now I'm just like, I don't know where I'm going, but it's better than feeling like I'm missing something, like feeling like I could have done, or waiting for something, and I don't know, the more I just keep going, the more I realize, like, everyone is just pushing through and guessing until they get lucky. Right. Like, they're just, that's all, everyone's just making shit up. Which kind of brings me to, what was it? We had rules, levels,
characters, coins.
The characters, to me, that just, it feels like the set. Like, it feels like the scene that you're in. The
context.
Yeah, it's like you're in a movie, but you don't know where you're going, but you just have, like, you're in this particular scene. And I feel like there's characters in every, there's roles in every, like, scene, and in a game, there's the roles. Like, you have to interact with the characters in the game to get where you're going. And I find that so interesting because, like, right now, like, I'm interacting with a lot of local people maybe, but then hopefully if this stuff works, like, I'm interacting with a, like, more international, like, people I don't know, and then I'm just reaching the masses. Like, hopefully, like, that's where this content creation thing is going. And I just find that so interesting because, like, you have to know that just because you're playing with these characters right now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be new ones later, or a completely different scene or setting to your business or to whatever. And you're just really going along for the ride. So I think the best way to think about, like, business and where you are, it kind of goes with the levels too, because that's also like a setting or a scene. You have to be present with that scene but know that it's not end game.
Right.
You know,
there's
more to it. And I think that could be really difficult because we think everything is forever. Like whatever we're in, we think this is going to last forever. It's not useful to constantly be thinking about the future either, but you just have to be like, I'm going to maximize these characters and this scene until I get to the next level, which kind of brings me to delusion. Okay. I think someone could be wondering, what are these characters? Who are these? Like, what is this scene? What is this setting? In my opinion, you make it up.
Right.
Like, that is I feel like you have to make shit up. I interact with no one on a day-to-day basis other than him and like our family members. So I'm making shit up. Like, yeah, every day it's like, I'm just going to guess that there's a girl like me sitting and waiting to read a newsletter or sitting and waiting to see an Instagram post. Like, I'm just making this shit up. And I feel like, I don't think it's really made up. Like, I think if you speak to yourself, you're speaking to another human being. But I feel like there's a lot of power in making up your own setting because it gives you something to work with.
Sure, right.
Like, people are like, how do I like not feel awkward, and how do I talk to people? How do I make content? Just, you literally make it up. Like, it doesn't matter that it's right, that you've created the right characters or that you have the right setting. It's just something to keep you going because people who are unsuccessful are trying to make things perfect. They're trying to make things right. It's like analysis paralysis. They're just over analyzing, over researching. It's not allowing them to take action. But when you make up a setting, like a movie, I find that so interesting that we can sit there and watch a movie and we're so into it. It heightens all of our body parts, our mind, everything is lit up when we're watching movies. And we know that this is made up. Like, somebody like made this up and we're watching it and we're getting angry. We're feeling sad. We're like, it's triggering all of these real emotions for something that's made up. So it's like, we can do the same thing with our business. Like, we can do the same thing with our life in general. Like, you can just create whatever it is that you want to see. And then by me just creating something I made up, people are like, oh my God, I get that. Like, I resonate with that. And it's like, yeah, I just made that up. And I think that you have to, I don't know any other way to keep going with something when you don't see any tangible results other than to make shit up. Like, I don't know. You
kind of create this context in your mind as a way for you to keep going. To kind of give you more clarity, give you more certainty in the uncertainty. I guess that could be kind of like a meta skill because people are going to do this in so many different ways. Some people will just grind it out. Some people will have a support group. Some people will kind of watch inspirational YouTube videos. Some people will seek mentorship. Some people will just create this massive delusion, even if it doesn't fully match the reality yet. Yeah, exactly. Yet. That's a key word. Because if you keep pushing a delusion long enough, people will get it. And they'll start to make it real with their real problems and their real feelings. So what are some of the characters that you've seen on your journey? If you were to, they could be specific people or like specific archetypes. Ooh, now that we put it in that way, I feel like there's, in my mind, there's like the audience, and there's like the anti-audience, and we've talked. We actually were gonna make an episode about this, so we decided not to. Oh yeah, you don't remember? No. The audience, and they both are necessary for me because they both tell the story. I feel like the audience is obviously, it's a version of me. It's past versions of me who I'm speaking to. My audience is the girlies who know they have something to offer. They know they have potential. They know they have a dream that they can see and visualize. They just don't know how to make it happen yet. And they have nowhere to go to express that or to talk about that because bills have to be paid. Their boss is pinging them. Their family is telling them about all the things that they have to do in life, but they're like, that doesn't really sound fun, but I'll just conform because what else am I going to do? They have nowhere to make this thing real. And sometimes you don't need a physical place. Sometimes you just need the 5 minutes before you start your day. Sometimes you just need a conversation or a Instagram page that brings you comfort, or a newsletter like that could encourage that person to actually go after it. Like do something about it. Like, it can be real. Like, I'm giving you permission to be delusional and like go ahead and do it. So that's my audience. But my anti-audience is
the quite opposite of that. The practical, realistic, rational person who is doing everything because it's practical and realistic and logical, but they hate their life. Like they're working a job because what else would they do? How else would they pay rent? They have to pay the bills. And like, why would I take a unnecessary vacation? How am I going to afford it? Why would I create a business idea or create a product idea? Who's going to buy it? They're just like practical to a fault. Like they can't seem to find a reason to do anything, and they're just so miserable.
They're why would I's.
Why would I's?
Why
and
should I?
Exactly. And it's like, but what if it does work out? But what if it can? And it's not easy. I mean, shit, I'm the poster child for that. Like, but that's why it's important for me to do it. Because I need to show both of those people that it's possible, you know, and they both play a huge role in me creating this world. In my mind, it's like, this is an epidemic. Like it's going to start sweeping the nations of like how serious this problem. Like people are going to start having mental, I mean, people are literally, but like people are going to be bedridden, depressed. No one's going to be living life. Everyone's like, all young people are going to be living like they're 65. And personally, I do feel like this is real, but it may not be as dramatic, but I have to dramatize it because if I don't dramatize it, people are not going to wake up. They're not going to take it seriously. And it's going to be like, oh yeah, sure. And I think that's why everyone doesn't like business people, because they think they're like, oh, they're super salesy. But you have to pretend like this is a critical issue for the world, or people are not going to take your shit seriously. They have a million people in their inbox telling them the world is on fire, like something's going to crash and burn. So like you have to kind of dramatize things so people pay attention, not falsify it, but like, you know, elevate it, heighten it. You know what I mean?
So the anti-audience are the characters that fuel you.
They're the villain, for lack of better word. You know, they're the antagonists.
They're what make you necessary.
Exactly. And then the protagonists, I'm trying to save them. There's a really good book that I read, like it's a story brand, I think this was called, by Donald Miller. I don't remember the full title, but he talks about businesses and everything as a story, like everything's storytelling, and you literally need to have your like villain, you need to have your protagonist, and then you are, as a business owner, you're the guide, you're the person taking the protagonist through the journey and protecting them for the villains, because they need to make it out. It's not about you, it's about them. And I think that's what really fuels me. It's like, there's this setting, there's this mission, right? Like I know we're going to talk about that, but like there's this mission that they have to accomplish. And to me, that is people living their life fully. Like why on earth would we be here to be miserable? Like it makes no sense to me why I would be alive with my full body and my full unique personality to exist for someone else. And that's how people live their life. They live their life like, I have my own interests, my own skills, my own dreams, whatever. I'm going to happily put that to the side to make my entire existence for someone else's dream. That makes no sense to me. Like, why would you exist? Why would we need you if we have them? Like, you need to have your own shit too. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to guide people through too. I feel like it's important to me as the guide to go through it myself. Like if I have dreams, I have to put them on blast. I have to try it. I have to do everything I want to do. But what's beautiful, I think, about this is like, I live my dream through other people living theirs, you know? And I feel like that's my like setting. That's where I have to go mentally to
so the
create.
Characters make up the setting.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Wow. What about you?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is there are people behind you, there are people in the same spot as you, and then there are people ahead of you. So it's almost like students, peers, and mentors. Yeah. And I think they're all important because mentors can kind of give you some hints that can save you a lot of time, but they can't give you everything because they're not where you're at in the same context. And
they're not you. Yeah, exactly. Like they could be different time.
Yeah, different time,
just different interests. Like
and then their peers are important because they kind of help you feel not crazy.
Yeah, you need that
because they're going through it right now. Yeah. And then the students are helpful because through mentoring them and kind of giving them advice, you are reflecting on your own journey and your own lessons. And then I find that giving advice is a great way to take it. So
100. This is why we do this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, and just giving kind of saying all these things, and then when next week when we watch it back, it's like, oh, that's really good.
That's really good. I can't tell you how many times I've watched our podcast and I'm like, yes.
And it's a good thing because we humans don't like to be inconsistent. You know, so if we hear ourselves saying something, we kind of feel this obligation, like, oh no, I have to live like that because I said that. So it's you can kind of like use your psychology.
That's why content is really good.
Yeah,
like I think that's why everybody should make content, because you will start noticing things about yourself you did not notice.
You'll find
before.
the inconsistencies, and then you'll be like, oh shit.
You
gotta fix this.
People saw that.
So those are the first players that came to mind. I'm sure there are more. Oh, okay. Another categorization are missionaries and mercenaries. This is an interesting one too, because like missionaries are people that are just driven by a deeper mission. Like they're going to do this no matter what. Yeah. No matter what the context is, if they're making money, if people are watching, like no matter what is happening, they're going to do that thing. Right. Mercenaries, they're driven by money. Yeah. You know, I won't say who. But I was talking to someone and they were talking about their old business partner. Okay. And they're doing like a values comparison. They were talking about their values. Interesting. And then the person was like, yeah, my values are, you know, basically stability and relationships, you know, like people. Yeah. And the other person said, my values are money and success. Oh, shit.
Okay, I would have to argue. I don't think money is a value. Like, I never see it on the lists.
So my definition of value is
something you care about,
or the things you care about. Values are the things you care about. So if the thing you care most about is money, then it can be a value.
Yeah, no, I think that's good because, or not good. I get it, because the Layla Hormozi, she put it in a really good way. Like, it's the things that you rely on when you don't have a rule for something. Right.
So if you don't have a rule, you just default to whatever makes me the most money.
I guess I could see that. Yeah.
And so there are people like that. And like values are, everyone has their own values, and you don't judge other people on their values or whatever. Of course, you might like try to, you know, challenge people or just try to prompt them to kind of dig deeper. Okay. Like, okay, what's behind the money? Yes. Like, what's behind this value of success?
Right. And maybe that's why I feel like it's not. Yes, money could make you make decisions easier, but I feel like there's always something behind money, because like, it's like saying that my value is chair. Like,
I'm going to maximize the number of chairs I get.
Sure. Yeah. Like, sure, that could help me make a decision. But like, maybe I'm really into chairs, but it's physical. It's a tangible thing. There's something. What does the chair make me feel? It makes me feel important. It makes me feel creative, or it makes me feel whatever. Then that's my real value. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there's something deeper.
Money is a vessel for something else. And I usually feel like when people say I love money, if 5 people say I love money, they could be all talking about different things. Yeah. Some person
could
have
a different reason why they love it.
A different reason why. Somebody, it's maybe stability. Some person, it's like this, gives me time, or status, or whatever. Like, I feel like those things deeper than the physical thing, that's the actual value. Mm-hmm. And I think both can help you make decisions, but usually when you're talking about the physical thing, you're talking about the internal.
So anyway, that's the whole missionary dichotomy. Yeah. And I think it's really important to know who you're talking to. It's not like you only want to work with missionaries or you only want to work with mercenaries. Like, both are. It's important to know who you're talking to, because you're a player in the game and they are players in the games. Yeah. And your success is going to be determined on your ability to predict their future behaviors. So that's why it's important. A mercenary, if the incentives are aligned, then you can have a very productive relationship with mercenaries, I believe. I guess with missionaries as well. But with missionaries, maybe instead of focusing on incentives, you're focusing on values and goals. You know, it's like, oh, okay, they are hyper focused on this goal and these are their values. We have these shared values here. So I can rely on that in making predictions of their future behavior.
And so when you talk about these missionaries and mercenaries, are these typically customers for you? Are they like team members or peers?
A lot of times, mentors. A lot of times it'll be another category. These will be people that are trying to collaborate. They're trying to work together. They're trying to do a deal.
Yeah.
So they could be mentors. They could be peers, or they could just be
people
extraterrestrial players, just from a completely different part of the game. And they're kind of showing up and they want to do something.
Okay, got it. That's interesting. What was our fourth thing?
I don't know. We're there's like very little structure here, but so far we've talked about rules. We talked about levels. We talked about characters. Coins, I guess, is kind of obvious.
So coins. I want to talk about coins.
Yeah.
So this was like the first connection to this metaphor for me because, there's such a huge discussion. Well, I don't know. Again, I live in La La Land. There's I'm on TikTok too much, but there's such a huge discussion. Like, at least with my business and what my mission that I'm trying to push, the first rebuttal I typically get is money. How are you going to make money? Or I would love to I would love to live my life. I would love to do these things, but how would I make money? And I highly encourage people to think beyond it, even though that sounds so counterintuitive and it sounds so random and it sounds like anti to what survival is. It feels like you're dying if you're not thinking about how to make money, right? But I feel like especially when you're embarking on entrepreneurship, like the journey, the game, whatever, you have to put money on the side. You need to picture it as something else. I find it helpful to picture it as something that doesn't actually exist. I think it's helpful to think of it as a coin, just like in Runescape. Did I physically die because I lost all my coins? No, it just set me back. I had to start over. And I think it was a really helpful way for me to visualize what money means to you, especially as an entrepreneur or creator, because you cannot get ahead if you don't lose.
Yeah.
You have to spend it to make it. And I think because we're never willing to spend it or lose it, we never get further.
Right. We kind of plateau.
Right. We kind of plateau. Or we think exactly what happened to me with my Runescape coins, that if you lose it, you just stop and you die. That's not actually real. You get back into the game later. You find another way to make money and use it again. And imagine if every time in a game you just lost money, you just gave up. That game would suck. That wouldn't make any sense. And I think it's the same thing with real life. You need to use money as a tool. It is a tool for you to do things. It is not the actual value. It is not the actual success, in my opinion. Right. It's how you actually feel with what the money brings you. And if you keep using it as something that you have to hold on to and hoard, look at hoarders. They're never happy.
Right.
They're miserable and they're mentally ill.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're trying to trap feelings. They're not letting things flow through them. They're never feeling anything. They're holding on to it. And I think that's what money ends up becoming, especially for a lot of people. And it hinders so many people from starting anything and succeeding at anything,
it's a really important point. And it's why I think it's good to think of the coins different than the levels.
Yeah.
And different from the objectives. Because sure, there will be correlation between the coins someone has and the level that they're at, but they're not necessarily the same thing.
Right, because you could be leveling up and look broke, have no money, but the skills and the knowledge that you're gaining from the levels that you're going up can make you that money in an instant.
Right, exactly.
It's
and then objectives, which we haven't talked about yet, but it's the coins aren't the objective. The objective should be something else, or is most often something else.
Exactly. I don't know where this mentality came from, because I feel like the characters in my previous game, they were very much you have to make sure you have enough money. You can't risk money and whatever. But at the same time, I think I grew up I've always wanted a different lifestyle, and I saw what those people had to do. They always had to be broke before it happened. My parents, to get to this country, broke. They had to do that to gain, and now they make decent money, and that's because they took a risk and set themselves back. And I think when you let go of that chokehold that you have over having a certain amount of money in your bank account, you allow so much more to come in. And I think that's the difference. You have to you cannot get new with the old. You need to like give it up. Yeah. And I had to give up making a comfortable 60 to 65K every year to make 120K, like, and you know, and not that much longer later. And I think now I was like, okay, it was so much easier this time for me to be like, I'm gonna go back to zero because I want to make 250, I want to make 500, and this time I want to make that doing something I thoroughly enjoy, and that's a whole different ball game, because you can make money easily, I guess, doing things you don't like, but making money doing something you like, that is a whole, because you can survive off a whole lot less doing things that you enjoy. That's true, for sure. Like, I'm so much more, give or take my breakdowns, I'm so much more,
give or take 3 breakdowns.
3 breakdowns. You know, I hear that, but I'm so much more happier, I think, and fulfilled. I would say I'm so much more fulfilled doing what I do now, making no money, than making as much as I was making doing social media freelance, making a lot of money. Like, yes, at the time, switching to social media was so much better than what I was doing, because I love social media. Like, that's what I grew up doing. And so I was like, bet I get to do something I like and make money. That was great. But then there was always something more. Like, I was like, there's something really spot on and deeper in my soul that I need to fulfill, my mission, that I was not touching at all. I wasn't creating content. I wasn't helping people like me. And now I'm aiming to make money doing that, getting paid to live. And that is like, I couldn't even imagine making 6 figures doing this. That would blow my mind.
Dream life.
That is a dream life on 10. And yeah, I've made 6 figures before, but this time it would be insane. And the point is, I have to be able to give things up to allow for that newness to come, because there'd be no way I'd be able to balance all of these businesses and content with the structure I had back then, with all my time going to my clients, with always looking for the next deal or hustle. Like, I couldn't balance both. And I know bills are real. I know you have to survive. But if you get really creative, and I'm saying this from experience, you can figure it out. Like, we figured it out. Like, it's not as hard as people make it out to be. Like, they don't even begin to think about it. I think that's the problem. Like, there's like, no, I'm not even going to go there. Don't even talk anymore about me not making money. Like, just shut up.
It's a lot like the anticipation of something is much harder than the thing itself. This is a similar kind of thing. Like, you imagining like, oh, if my income got cut in half or into a fourth, like
you're like, oh shit, how would
it becomes so stressful. But when you're actually in that scenario, you don't even have bandwidth to work to stress out.
Thank you.
You're just action and solution oriented.
You get to work. Let me tell you, like, you will get to, like, I'm telling you, if you think, oh my God, I'm gonna have like, no, I can't even pay rent, you will find a way to pay rent.
Here's a good example: your taxes.
Oh my God, yes. This might be. I don't really mind sharing this stuff, and I know people seem uncomfortable when I talk about it, and I don't mean to make people uncomfortable. I just don't care that much. But I was kind of freaking out a little last year, because I was like, I want to start this brand. I have to physically, like, I have to invest money. It's not a lot, like $2 or $3 grand into making my physical product, my sweatshirts. And I was running low on money. So by the end of December 2023, I had
$7 grand.
No, but like my personal money outside of my tax. So let me re-explain this.
Okay.
I, as a freelancer in like 2022, 2023, I have to set money aside to pay my taxes. I think, just in case you don't know that, I have to put it away. So I put it in a separate account because it just makes it easier for me. So a lot of times, like throughout the like year, it'll be like 5K, 10K, it'll keep growing as I have to put 30% away from every check I get. So I think at like tax season last year, April 2023, I had like $7 grand in there. Okay. 7 or 8 grand in there. And I think I was a bit short too of like my actual taxes, but I was like, okay, I'm going to just figure it out, you know? And then I had money, like a little bit of money to live, right? Because that April 2023 is when I got let go from my client. So I was like, oh shit, like, and that's when I was like, oh, let me start a business and I can make money by the end of the year and figure it out.
Right.
That didn't end up happening. So it's December 2023. I have that $7,000 ish because I was using it to like practice consulting, start the business, my consulting business. And I have like $7,000 in that account, 6 or 7 grand, I think. And my personal money was down to zero. Like I had no more money to pay my bills, and he takes care of like most of our living expenses, but I still have like my car note and like my insurance, things like that. And I was like, crap, like I don't have any money, and I also don't have any money to start anything new. So I was like, I'm just going to use my tax money to start this business, and this will become my business money now. And hopefully the business makes money so I can pay that back and then survive. Yeah. That also didn't happen. So I was like, oh crap. I knew when I was deciding to do that, I was kind of on momentum. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make that money back. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. It didn't happen. And so April of this year, I was very nervous because I was like, shit, I know I'm going to owe like 15 grand because I was short. So that original 8 grand was not even going to cover it. I was like, I know I'm going to owe this much and I have no money to pay it back. And I was sweating, but then I just finally did my taxes. And so I ended up owing like 11 grand. And I was like, okay, not as bad as I thought. And then I was like, wait a minute, I could do like a payment plan. And then I was like, that's still kind of not ideal because I'm still not making money. So I don't even know how I would pay month to month. And then when I signed up and did the whole thing, you just pay in one lump sum at your new deadline.
Yeah.
With interest
6
and
months
stuff.
later.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I have 6 months to actually figure it out. Because I have experience. Like I know the businesses, it's going to take a minute to make money. So now I need to figure out some other venture. And now that's kind of led me to doing UGC.
Exactly.
Because it's still a way for me to be a content creator full time. Like I'm not having to have clients and, you know, it is, but it's not. Like it's still like my threshold is like still make it get paid to live vibes. Make money in a way that still feels natural to you. And so I can aim to make 11, 12 grand through that by my new deadline, which is in October. And it really wasn't this huge drama. Like it's not that big of a deal. And I'm reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he says something like, the government will always be screaming for their money. You don't need to freak out every time that they ask for money, because they will make sure they get it. But you need to pay yourself first, because if it's the other way around, if you're always giving your money to the government and giving it to all these bills and everything, you will never just feel this urge to be like, I need to find a way to make money, because you're just gonna be like, oh, I'll start it next month. Oh, I'll start it next year. I'll start it in a few years.
For example, like, you know, you have your bills in government. Taxes included, and you want to start a business. Most people will pay their bills first and then leftover for the business. But what happens is if they're short on what they need for the business, they're like, oh, no big deal.
I'll try to next month.
Because you are the arbiter. Like you
don't care.
You have to be the one collecting the money for your own business.
Exactly.
But if it's the other way around, like you give your business everything it needs, and now your bills are second. Of course, you need to have a little finesse here, but you'll kind of give your business everything it needs, and then
the government will not sleep until they get that check.
People that like the collectors of whatever bills, they're going to be reminding you that you owe them money. You
owe this, and you're going to be like, oh shit.
And then that fuel
I need to make
will
money.
in.
I need to make more money. So either this business is going to start pumping out cash, or I need to find something to do. And it gives you like I feel like it's just a more natural, even though people do it the opposite, I think it's just a more natural way of doing it. It's we always talk about this, like just in time. You don't need to overwork. You just need to do what is needed for that moment. That's another thing I've learned in this game. Like I have been discovering a bunch of new entrepreneurs. A lot of them, they're like, I only had 10 grand to make this business work. I only had $1,000 to make this business work. And that just forced them to really make it happen. And I don't think that 10 grand or that $1,000 was just money they had sitting around. I think that was like all they had. And I think I'm not encouraging people to be reckless, but I'm just saying the reality is it's not going to be comfortable. So trying to over accumulate on coins, you're never going to start.
You're just going to lose it.
You're going to lose it, or you're going to give it away to the government. You're going to give it away to bills.
You have to pay to learn.
Yeah. And I think there's other ways that this is not the only way to do things. But personally, I've just never... like, I've never seen money as like this real thing. So I'm just like, whatever, it's my coins. Like, I'm just going to use my coins to get my thing, whatever I need. And that makes me feel good. The thing I get in return makes me feel good. Yeah. I don't regret using that money. I love the sweatshirts I made and people love them too. And if I sell all of them, even better. Like, I gained so much from that $2,000 I spent. I learned how to create clothing. I learned how to build a website. I learned how to even sell any of these things. Like, that's invaluable to me versus what that $2,000 sitting in my account that I would have given to the government. I would have learned nothing. I would have learned absolutely nothing
and
doing
you would
that.
have been in this situation where now you're forced to get creative
and
on
get
how to
better
generate.
and learn how to make money. And I think that's the difference he's saying in the book. When you give your money to the government, you don't learn anything. When you do it, you pay yourself first and do it the opposite way. You learn how to make money. And that is a huge skill. I would totally push anyone. Learn how to make money. Don't make money. Learn how to make money. Those are two different things. Yeah. And you always have something to rely on, because now, and I'm in the situation where I'm like, shit, I have 11,000 to make. I've learned how to make money before. I know how to do it. I know how to email and cold pitch people and like whatever in this marketing world, because it's something I know how to do. But if I never tried freelance, I would have never known that that's an option for me. I literally went 22 years of my life, didn't think that it was an option, just to DM someone, see if they would respond and make a deal. I didn't know that was an option. And it's obvious, it's happening all the time, but you just are never forced to think that way when you're getting a check every few weeks. You just never. And I think that skill is going to always come in handy, like for the rest of my life, as opposed to getting promoted. Yeah. You have been promoted.
So there was one last thing we talked about, which was the objectives, the missions. How does that fit into all this? How does that fit into the game?
I think that's so... I'm actually like, this is the first time I've thought about that. Like the mission and objective thing in the game. But I think that's so good because people live... It's a huge like call to my mission and my message that people need to live intentionally. You need to live fully. You have to live intentionally. You have to be intentional about what you do. And so many of us are not intentional about our life. And it's never perfect. It's a spectrum, but some of us are at 0. And I think it's autopilot. It's giving, I'm going to work a job, make a check, watch Netflix, start again, repeat. And that is so sad to me that like a whole life is being used to do that. We could have a robot do that. We don't need you to do that. You know what I mean? And I think when you have a mission, you have an objective, your whole life is filtered through that mission and objective, which means you get there faster because you are literally using everything in your setting and your scene to get there. Yeah. But it gives you fulfillment that nothing else can bring. Right. You know what I mean? Like I don't see how people don't have one. And I don't think that's true. I think everyone has one. You just don't know what it is yet. I don't see how people don't want to go after it because like nothing else matters if it's not filtered through a lens. Like even right now, you have a lens you're filtering all this information through. There's no way we can soak up everything that the world has to offer. So you need a lens. My argument is that your lens is intentional and it's curated to what you actually want in life. Right. A lot of time, my whole life, I was living through a lens of make money look cool. Like if I really got down to it, I don't think I valued that. I don't care about that. Right. I don't care to fit in. Yeah, but that was the lens I was given and I was using it. Mm-hmm. How can I get promoted in this job? How can I make more money? How can I look cool and go to the fanciest resorts? That was my mission. And that's not what I actually wanted. So even if I get that, I would not be happy. So that's the point. Yeah. But whenever you use your own lens, right now, my life looks psychotic. I'm sure from an outside perspective. And this is where I feel the most fulfilled. It's hard right now, but I don't think I would be in any other spot. You know what I mean? Like at least I know I'm getting closer to my mission. Like that is invaluable because I've had everything before and I was nowhere near my mission and it wasn't worth it for me. You know?
I really like how you're putting this because it's like the mission, the objectives, they can live in the context of a level, but they can also transcend levels.
Yeah.
They can correlate with the coins, but they could have nothing to do with the coins, you know? You can use the characters to kind of help, or you can use your mission and your objectives to kind of make decisions with the characters you choose to interact with.
Right. It honestly shapes everything. Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't something that I had thought about in the context of a game, but like, why are you playing the game? You know,
literally. That's a perfect way to put it. Why are you even playing? And you're playing some game.
Yeah.
So why are you playing
that? Whether the corporate game, the academic game, the nonprofit, like everything's a game.
It's a game. So why are you playing that specific one? And if you don't know why, I think I encourage you to find a mission or actually uncover your mission because it's in you. Like you know what you're here to do. You're just distracted. And I feel like missions, objectives, they just give you something to focus on. And it gives you, while it gives you something to focus on, it gives you something to not focus on at the same time.
Exactly.
Because we're so distracted with information, we don't know where we're going. That's why everyone's like, I'm lost, I'm depressed, I'm sad. It's because we don't have anything that we're focused on. And I think after school, we lose our mind because for the first time, we don't have a teacher or professor or someone telling us what to do. So we say, oh, employer, give me a mission to do. And they're like, great. They're like, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm glad I have this helper here. He can accomplish my mission. And that's, if it aligns, like you also see what this employer can do for your mission, amazing. No, continue. But if you have no idea why you working for that person or you doing this thing for this person helps you in your journey, why are you doing it? And it's an uncomfortable question to ask because it will require you to blow up your life in some aspect. And we don't like doing that. But it's worth it. Starting from zero again, finding a new game. But it's worth it if that gets you closer to your mission. And missions can be anything, honestly. Like my mission, especially with this company and with my content, is to really help like dreamers like me who are also ambitious to open up their life and live it, like actually find it and like live what they're supposed to do. That's my mission. I get happy. I don't really like people that much. And I've never really been that person like, I just want to help people in life. That's never crossed my mind. But how I know this is my mission is because when people are just doing their thing, like when they're just doing their weird, unique lifestyle, like they just have this it almost seems perfect to me, but like they're just doing what they want to do. Yeah. They don't need anybody telling them why they should, like you can tell like they have just designed their life. That just is like, oof, yes. Like we need more of that. Right. It feels right. It feels correct when people are doing that. And I feel like more of us should do that because it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring to see people living their life. Like, you could just look at someone and be like, they're living. Like they're not on autopilot. They're just living life. And I don't see enough of it. Yeah. So that's my mission, to make more of it. And it took a while for me to find out that this was the mission, but I knew, like, it started with me, like, I just love like luxury because that's where I saw people living life. Like I saw people going on vacations, dressing up, like again, escapism on Tumblr. I was always drawn to celebrities. They're fucking living life. You know what I mean? Like they're doing there were a million reasons they could have been a normal person. There was probably like very few reasons that they had to blow up their life to like become a singer, actor, whatever. Like it basically is like they had to force their way through to be known. And I always found that so fascinating because I'm like, they could have just been a normal person. Justin Bieber could have just been singing in his bedroom, didn't have to post anything, didn't have to be dancing in the streets for Usher to find him. I'm kidding, but not really. But like the fact that they did that to like get where they are. Not everyone, but a lot of them, you know. And I feel like you don't have to be a celebrity for you to do that. You can be and still desire a normal life and still be like living to the fullest. It started with like luxury celebrities, you know, like escapism, people who are living like traveling the world. Through that, I started to realize my own personal story. I'm like, why am I just like escaping into this world? Like, why can't I create it? Like, why can't I just make everything I desire into my reality? Like, why can't I do that? And then I was like, why doesn't everybody do that? And then that's where I was like, I could have easily been like, oh, that's just a fun thought. Like, that's just a cool thing that I believe. When I talk to people, I thought this was obvious. So I thought this was something everyone knew and understood. But talking to people, I realized they had never thought that way. And that's what was like, what? I was like, that's when I was like, this is an epidemic. Because no one I know has thought of this before. And I don't assume that my thoughts are original. So I was like, okay, the fact that people don't know this is becoming serious. That's where the anti-audience started to develop.
Oh, I see. And
then at the same time, when I was seeing that they never thought of this before, and it was actually bringing them relief, I was like, oh, people need this. So that's when the audience started to form. And then I was like, wait, but, you know, I needed this too.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like the mission was like, okay, you got to do this. Like, there's very few people who are willing to rearrange their life to make their dreams possible. So and I'm willing to do that. So I have to do this, you know? And I don't think you know your mission in 1 minute, but it takes...
Right. And it refines and develops.
It refines, but it requires you to try things. Right. Like, you have to do things for you to start being like, this is important. If I wasn't talking to people, if I wasn't posting my content and people were like, oh my God, you know, I wouldn't have known that this was an issue. I would have just thought like, oh, you know, that's a cute, fun thing. I'll talk about it at parties when I'm drunk, but like nothing other than that. But like, no, you have to be putting yourself out there, because you might be someone's beacon of hope.
Right.
Like, you literally might be someone's savior, because for you, it's not as hard to do what they wish they could do, you know? So how have you discovered your mission?
Well, honestly, it goes back to just going through the whole thing with anxiety and like post-traumatic stress, because I thought my life was over when I was going through that. I was like, I'm going to die at 50. This is never going to get better. Like, I'm stuck like this.
Wait, so you were planning to make it that far? You were like 18 or 19.
I was 18, but my thinking was, my life is over. It's not going to get better. Like, I'm so stressed. Like, it's so much on my body that I'm just going to die young because it's just too much. And I don't think this is uncommon thought. I think a lot of people that are going through very rough times, I don't know, I've heard at least one other time someone was going through something and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna die young. Like, I think that's just inevitable because of
what I'm going through.
What I'm going through right now.
Wow.
But I came out the other side, and not only did I survive it, it made me better than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And so that kind of unlocked something for me. It's like, the things that you think are impossible, that's negotiable, you know? And actually, I don't think there's anything that's impossible. You're just looking at it from the wrong perspective. And so once I kind of uncovered that, then it's like, okay, what am I leaving on the table? What else is possible that I don't think is possible? And so it just kind of created this habit of growth and improvement and trying to explore what I'm fully capable of. And then kind of thinking more broadly, I really buy into this idea of social contagion, which is we become like those we spend our time with. And so you're talking about those people that are living their life to the fullest and how we need those people. And I really agree with that, because they are the inspiration and the guides for how we can do that for ourselves.
Exactly.
And in the same way, like when I see someone who has unlocked their potential or is in the pursuit of unlocking their potential, it's inspiring to me and it helps me do that for myself.
Yeah.
And then me doing that, you know, maybe one day I'm doing something and then you see it from a certain light, and that inspires you,
right?
And then you make a TikTok about it and it goes viral, and then it starts inspiring like a small percentage of your audience,
right.
And that network effect, this social contagion, can result in very small contributions creating outsized impacts in results. You know, just a YouTube video or a TikTok or just a way of living, a book, like can have these massive echoes throughout society.
Yeah.
And so that's just the thing I've just been curious about. And once I've saw that you can, like how resilient we are and how much we are capable of, it just kind of fired me up and like, okay, what if everyone was doing this? What world would we live in? Like, how many problems would we solve? Like, how great would our lives be? How happy would we be? Because I truly feel like this is when people are happy, when they're really working towards something, they're improving, they're growing. And the more people are happy, more people become happy. Like happiness begets happiness. But it also cuts the other way. If people are depressed and just kind of lounging and stumbling and kind of enduring life and not living it, that is contagious. And then that'll lead us to ruin.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you said that. No, I don't know. I was just getting inspired too, because yeah.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. It was good.
I guess that's a good place to
end. So yeah, that's the game through our perspective at this point of entrepreneurship. And I feel like it doesn't, obviously this doesn't fix anything. It just, sometimes you need a story to put your experiences in. And a lot of times, like, I mean, we're all living in stories. So like just understanding that, okay, games end, you know, or like these things are not forever, or you go to another level. Like just knowing that, or having some kind of structure in your mind could help.
Just gives a layer of certainty and structure to the chaos.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching once again, and we will see you next time.
Sans raison.
Sans raison.